from the News Channel 5 Network. This is Score on Business.
Hey, welcome to Score on Business. I'm Pete Hendricks, your host today. I'm a serial entrepreneur. So many prospective entrepreneurs aren't sure where to start, so we'll provide a tip. Also, Score offers low-cost classes and no-charge counseling specifically to guide folks through thinking about starting and succeeding in business. More information is available at scorenashville.org. Make sure to click on the Workshops tab at the top of the page. Usually a half day, mainly on weekends, about $25. And your tip for this show is go to some of these Score workshops, and there are a couple of other organizations that do them as well, but you're looking for the low cost, and I can tell you that the content with Score is very good. Okay, let's get to something exciting. Our first guest today is Nick Pellegrino, and he is the chef and owner of Mangia Nashville, a Southern Italian restaurant that has exploded onto the scene here in Middle Tennessee. Nick's family are from Southern Italy, and he's brought their way of cooking and eating to Nashville. Mangia is right off of 8th Avenue on Craighead Street. Yeah. And so that's, good. So, restaurant business is a hard business, and many fail. That's maybe one of the highest levels of failure of any business. So what should folks who dream of starting a restaurant know before they really move forward?
I think the number one thing that you should think about is how much money are you prepared to lose? Pretty much. You're right. I think the statistic is something like 90% of restaurants that open do fail. And there's a number of reasons why they do fail, and there's, as many reasons why restaurants are successful. It's a great business to be in if you really know what you're doing and you know what to expect going in. There's a lot of things that pop up. Just because you throw a great dinner party for, 6 or 10 of your friends does not mean you can run a restaurant. Now, I never ran a restaurant before this one. I was in the music business. I had a small catering business in New York for a couple of years with a friend of mine. So I knew somewhat the method behind doing it all. When we started as a pop-up. And from what I understand, we were the first ones to do a pop-up in Middle Tennessee. Now, what a pop-up is basically an opportunity for a chef to kind of, test out his concept, whatever that may be, in someone else's restaurant when they might not be open. And I had a friend of mine who had a little meat and three out in Franklin, and they were closed on Saturdays. So I had this idea to do this price-fixed dinner with music and dancing and just kind of like a big Italian wedding. And he said, well, we're closed on Saturdays, we'll try it. And we tried it, and it just took off. And it was nothing that I expected. I did not have a business plan. I was flying by the seat of my pants. I was just making stuff up as we went along, and when things worked, it was fantastic, and there were things that didn't work as well. So, we did that successfully, for 5 years.
What I really like about that is your investment up front was small.
It was nothing.
If it had failed.
Yeah, I mean, we very minimal, investment up front. We bought some dishes and some, tablecloths and that sort of stuff that we needed to do it. But as the business grew, we would purchase the other things that we needed to make it, work a little smoother. But really, there was no investment up front. And like I said, that's a great way for you to kind of test the waters and see is this worth doing? Do I even want to do it? Because feeding 10 people in your house and feeding 100 people consistently every Friday and Saturday night is a vast difference between the two.
Yeah, and you've had training to
I did have some training. Like I said, I was in the music business. About 25 years ago, I ran into a friend of mine from high school that went to the Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park. And he said, hey, I know you love to cook. I'll give you cooking lessons. I'll teach you how to be a chef. Teach me how to play guitar. And so we did that, and we had fun doing it and then we eventually opened a little catering business. So, that was my experience and my knowledge of the food business. And then when I moved to town, before I was making enough money in music, I would go and cook. So there's always cooking jobs, So I would suggest to people, before you go and open your own restaurant, go get yourself a job in a restaurant and see what really goes on there, and talk to the owners, talk to people that have been in it for a long time.
Yeah.
So you understand all the costs up front and hidden, and on the back end.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff involved in it. You are running a business, so you're dealing with unemployment benefits, insurance, all that kind of stuff, workman's compensation, and these are things that you don't think about when you say, hey, I'll spend $100 on this food, I'll sell it for $300, and I'll make $200 profit.
Right.
Well, that profit gets eaten up real fast.
Oh yeah, it's not profit.
It's
People
not
are not
profit.
taking all the costs.
Yeah, you're not taking all that money home with you. And then when you get things like liquor and wine involved, there's taxes involved with that as well. So you have to really take all that stuff into consideration, especially when you're putting together your business plan and you're figuring out how much capital do I need for a startup.
Right.
Because if you do not budget at least 6 to 12 months of working capital, you're going to go out of business, because it takes some time to get that momentum going where you're generating enough income to pay your expenses and hopefully pay yourself.
Right.
Now, we were in a very fortunate situation because we had a successful business on Friday and Saturday, so we were really just moving that location to a new one. So we had that revenue built in. So that is a real luxury in the restaurant business.
Right.
And I would tell you right now, if I was just depending on my lunches and dinners in the new place to support us, we'd be in trouble right now. But the fact that we had that revenue built in starting was just a blessing, and not most people have that opportunity. So make sure you've got that working capital built in.
What else? So a lot of people are, getting a year's worth of working capital is a big deal. You've already explained the pop-up.
Yeah.
Where else could people go? Or how else could people test out what they have without going and doing a pop-up?
Yeah, there's a lot of great opportunities out there to do these sort of things. The Nashville Farmers Market has the Grow Local Kitchen. I mean, you can go in there on a Saturday for a small fee and basically rent their kitchen and try out your concept. Sell some sandwiches. If you make donuts, sell donuts.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great opportunities, more now than there ever have been.
Right.
Because the food business has just exploded. Certainly in Nashville. I mean, every day you open the paper, there's 5 more restaurants opening.
Right.
And that's made it difficult on hiring staff.
Right.
Because you've got all these restaurants and a limited pool of people that are qualified to work in them. So that's another thing to consider too. You're going to go in your restaurant. Not only are you going to bust your butt working, you've got to find some people that care about it as much as you do.
Yes.
And that's, for me, that is the #1 priority, is getting great people, surrounding yourself with great people who care about it.
That's always any business. Nothing happens from marketing or an ad. What happens is from people.
Yes.
And having people that are motivated.
Yeah. And I try to have it, I tell all the staff that we hire, I try to have a Disney mentality. I want you to treat people like they're in Disney World. Because we're not just about food, it's about an experience when you come to our restaurant.
Well, tell us about Mangia.
Okay. So, like I said, we started out as a pop-up, and we did a 5-course price fix family style feast every Friday and Saturday night.
Was that like the one table and people who didn't know each other?
Yeah, you'd sit down. I mean, if you came with just a couple, you'd sit down with folks that you'd never met before, and you would sit with them, and by the time you drink a glass of wine or two and pass a platter of food, you're all friends.
Oh yeah.
And that was a great community aspect that I didn't think about going in, but it just happened organically, and it's a great opportunity for you to network with people.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of business connections, a lot of friendships that were made, and like these guys come back every time together now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and that doesn't happen at a normal restaurant experience, because you sit at these community tables and you're pretty focused. You're looking at your phone, you're looking at the person across from you, but when you're passing a platter of food and you're sitting down and everybody's singing and dancing,
that makes a lot of
You've got to interact with people.
Yeah.
So that's what we do at the new location on Friday and Saturday night. So we've just kind of moved that to this place.
Yeah. Hey, I want to make sure to ask this question.
Yeah.
We're going into the holiday season. What do you all do relative to catering and parties?
Yeah, so that's a great question. What we're doing now in the new place, because we have access to it 7 days a week, you can book the whole place for your holiday party, and we can do your own private little Mangia on a Tuesday night, a Wednesday night. And in addition to that, we've got our regular a la carte menu during the week, with, pizzas and sandwiches. We've got a great bar program, bocce ball court outside. It's a lot of fun just to kind of hang. It's much more casual. professional, and it's not a 3-hour commitment. We don't make you dance. If you want to dance, we encourage that behavior.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So how folks can find you, your Facebook is pretty active, which is facebook.com/Mangia Nashville,
Yes, sir.
and Mangia, M-A-N-G-I-A.
Yes, sir.
Then you've also, of course, got a website, which is mangianashville.com.
Yes, sir.
So now, I wanted to make sure that we talked about that. But let's come back to some of these critical success factors. What
Yeah.
are a few other things that people really need to understand?
You really need to have a handle on what your fixed costs are going to be every month. The things that are going to happen no matter what.
Right.
You're going to have your utilities. You need to budget for those utilities. And keep in mind as well that when you start a restaurant or any business, to open a business account for a utility, you're going to have to give them a pretty substantial deposit.
Right.
So you might have several $1,000s that just goes into deposits for utilities.
Right.
That's something that people don't consider when they open a business. You know, there are a lot of deposits involved because you are a new business and you don't have a credit history. So most of the time you're going to be on COD with most of the vendors that you buy your food and any of your products from. So that's a thing to consider as well. And again, that goes back to that cash reserve. Because if you're on COD, that money comes out of your account the day you write the check.
Yeah.
So that's kind of stuff that kind of catches people by surprise. They're like,
Right.
well, why
So
can't
what
I pay
I'm
it
really
in terms?
hearing is that the people need to have a well thought out business
Yes,
plan.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Nick, thanks a million for
Thank
being
you.
here.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back.